you're clear, it's not about buildings, it's about people. It's about souls, it's about people suffering and literally dying as you're speaking. We're all New Yorkers, and we're all Americans, and watching this happen is unbelievable. We've lost our skyline, and as a country, I think it's fair to say we've lost our innocence.
You're just not ready for that. And as much as you say to yourself, okay, I've got to get a grip here, if you will. I've got a job to do, and it's a very difficult job at this point.
I had never seen anything like that before. You know, I've been in the news business for a while. Then I had been in the business for about 20 years, and I'll have to say that day really rattled my cage. It was something I had never seen before.
It looked apocalyptic. They were covered in ashes, white and gray, marching up the West Side Highway, desperate to get home. They couldn't take the train, they couldn't take a bus, there was no way. So ferry service started running. All the ferries started coming and bringing people to New Jersey. Whether it takes 4, 6, 10 hours to get home tonight, no one here was really complaining or counting the hours. They were instead counting their blessings. And they lined up, just wanting to get home.
Just thankful to be alive. That's all I can say. I just want to get home
Nope.
to my family.
There had been the hope that perhaps boats carrying either people who might have been seriously injured or critically injured, needed some type of help, were then ferried across to New Jersey for some hospitalization. 10 hours after the initial impact, we were all still hoping that maybe there are people to be saved. But we waited, and we waited, and we waited as darkness fell, and we never saw a boat.
My assignment for the next several days was triage, was people who were getting out. There were doctors on standby, there were volunteers on standby, there were hospitals waiting, and we went to all of them. But the people were never brought in.
You always hold out hope. Just a short while ago, we saw a tractor trailer. We understand the first of the bodies being taken to the morgue here at Bellevue. Bellevue is right next to the medical examiner's office. And so I remember reporting they were bringing trucks up to the morgue even that first day. Refrigerated trucks were parked outside the morgue. And you knew that this was going to be mass casualty.
I was at St. Vincent's for days.
All right, we are live in front of St. Vincent's Hospital.
And the story didn't change. People just weren't coming to the hospital because they didn't survive.
They are waiting, anxious to treat patients who are brought in. I talked to one doctor. He said the adrenaline is flowing, but there's a sense of helplessness. They just want to be able to help as many people as possible. They're hoping that more are brought in alive.
It was dramatic. It was very crystal clear at that point, the magnitude of loss.
As night falls, we are seeing more and more equipment coming onto the scene. The plan now is to work through the night and pour as much light onto that scene as possible.
I remember them bringing in huge trucks to start actually trying to remove some of the debris. As the night fell, the plume and the smoke and the cloud, it continued. It was just as fresh at night as it was when it happened during the day.
You could smell the acrid scent of that smoke, and it's the scent you'll never forget.
I've never smelled anything like it. I haven't since, and I hope I never do.
You cannot describe what we later started calling the pile. I mean, you can't describe the dystopian carnage that was in Lower Manhattan. It was a hellscape you cannot imagine, and it went on forever. You couldn't see the end of it. It was horrifying. It was horrifying to see what people had done to other people.
Who would have ever thought that you would look down 6th Avenue and those towers would not be standing there? You know, it's 20 years, and I start talking about that day and it comes back.
At a time where people weren't as connected as they are now on social media, the news really provided not just information, but perhaps a sense of all of us being in this together as one nation, one city.
It was the commitment to getting the story and telling it right, but it was also, this is home. And So it was an attack on all of us.
New Yorkers and the rest of the world are scared. They are frightened. They're trying to get answers to the questions that we're trying to get answers to. And everybody was suffering that day, whether you lost a loved one or not. This city in particular was suffering, and we were trying to help them manage and get through that suffering.
This incident changed people. You can see in your coworkers before and after. You can see in the residents of New York City before and after.
You cover news and you know that you're going to cover bad things, and you can kind of put them in a little compartment. But this one was the kind of thing that just you carry with you for the rest of your life.
I felt like historically, I wanted to be known what we saw, what we experienced, and from my perspective, I want my kids to be able to see this, and I don't want it to just disappear into the ether.
Doing my job, I think, and documenting it pays tribute to the people who actually never survived.
And the first responders, they're the heroes. The firefighters are the heroes. There's so many people who didn't think twice about going down there when people were running away.
The firefighters, those pictures of them walking up and then the towers coming down. It was just heroism at its finest. I don't know that they expected the building to come down, but I don't think they gave a second thought to, heading up when all those other people were coming down.
I still think about the families, the kids that never knew their parents.
There's no closure. That scar stays right in your heart forever. It scars up, heals a little bit, but it's not ever gone.
20 years later, I still haven't come to terms with all of it.
When I drive home at night, and I would go to Bayonne, I would see the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan in my rearview mirror. And one of my favorite views is when the sun is setting and the sky is that beautiful blue, and the sun makes all of Lower Manhattan look golden. I would live for that. Now I have a hard time looking in the rearview mirror. I just don't want to be reminded of it. The sadness is still too raw for me.
I'm glad that I have these horrible memories just to make it clear what happened, because we can never forget. We can't forget the loss in the city that day, and we also can't forget the resilience of the city that day.
Bill Beutel has a final thought.
Finally tonight, part of our world has fallen apart. That is not a statement of despair. It is a statement of fact. It was a lovely day when it began, a little bit before 9 o'clock. 15 minutes later, in Lower Manhattan, though, all hell had broken loose. The Twin Towers began to sway and then to fall. We watched as our way of life began to sway and fall, too. The skyline is gone. So this tragic story is really just beginning. I'm Bill Beutel. Good luck and be well.